Today I'm pulling one of my favourites out of the collection. This is my Seiko Samurai. It's the PADI edition and it's otherwise known as the SRPB99. So a couple of things I'd like you to know before we go into this. This is my own watch. I paid for it with my own money and therefore these are all my own opinions. I did buy this second hand. I got it for an amazing price that I couldn't say no to, but it did come practically new when I got it. Very well looked after. I think it was worn once or twice, and I've been wearing this pretty much constantly for the last 2 weeks. So as I said earlier, this is the PADI edition of the Samurai. PADI stands for Professional Association of Diving Instructors, so obviously it's a brilliant name to have on your dive watch. Obviously Seiko collaborates with PADI to make these watches. They made a couple, they made quite a few actually, that I can think of off the top of my head. They've been collaborating since 2016, so about 4 years now. Obviously Seiko have been making dive watches since the 60s, very popular dive watches ever since they released them in the 60s. Probably because of the amount of money that you spend for what you get. I mean, I don't think you'll find any better value on a brand that is as well known as Seiko. I mean, you might find decent value in one of your Chinese watches or a micro brand out there, but not someone as well known as Seiko, definitely. As you can see, it's got those PADI colours, the red and blue dial, along with that, I hope you can see it here, wave pattern on the dial. Absolutely amazing, that wave pattern. I'd love to know if it's etched in or it's printed. It's just an absolute quality piece. Obviously a lot of people are a fan of the PADI style, and because of this Pepsi look dial that you get, certainly something that appeals to me anyway. Diameter wise, this is a 43.8, I've got it measured there, in diameter across. It is 13.5mm thick, which isn't as thick as you'd think. It doesn't have a domed piece of hard lex here. It is flat and it does kind of sit under the bezel. It's a bit weird. Lug to lug, it's 48mm, which is a bit big, but it wears quite well, to be fair, for the size of it. Lug width is 22mm, tapers down to around 20 at the end of the bracelet. Obviously, for my wrist, this is a very short bracelet. Getting into what we actually have here, we obviously have a screw down crown, which you'd expect on a dive model. Nailed type of design on there and on the bezel, which is nice and grippy. Lovely 120 click unidirectional bezel. Sounds absolutely quality. I hope it's picking that up. Love that bezel. Obviously the 15-minute indicator in red around the edge, which is perfect to time in your dives. Not that I'd ever use this for diving. Absolutely terrified of the water. Now, we do not have a sapphire crystal in here. It is hard lex crystal, which is harder than mineral, but obviously it's not sapphire. Water resistant to 200 meters. We've got Lumibrite on the hands and the dial. I'll try and insert a loom shot here so you can see what you're dealing with. As I say before, 22mm lugs, so it's nice and easy to fit a different bracelet if you didn't fancy the stainless steel. I know everyone is a fan of Seiko bracelets, and we have drilled lugs. Nice and easy to swap out your bracelet on these. Another thing that you'll notice, it doesn't say water resistant to 200 meters. It actually says divers 200 meters, which is because it meets ISO 642S, I believe, which goes over the operation of the watch, how easy it is to use whilst diving, dial legibility, bezel markings, strength, its anti-magnetic properties. It's an actual dive watch, like it's not a faux dive watch that you pick up and looks good. It would actually work whilst diving. So, as you can also see on the markings on the face, this is an automatic watch. It has the 4R35 movement. Other people might know it as the NH35. That's what I think it's called when it's not in a Seiko. 23 dual hand winding automatic. Can't be overwound. It's got a 40-hour power reserve on one wind, which is pretty decent. Click in and wind it up. and that just locks in as you would expect a dive crown to do so. These are solid end links, pins and collars, which are absolute nightmares if you're sizing this. Be very careful, because if you lose one of those bloody collars, it's a nightmare. It's got a Seiko diver's clasp, as you can see, little push pins and then safety clasp over that. It also has a diver's extension. I think it's a bit stiff on my one, obviously because I haven't been using it. Little dive extension there for you, which is ideal for going over your wetsuit if you are going to use this to go diving. Put that back up, just links back up, clips in underneath, just there, and this all clips back together. As you can see, 4 micro adjusts, great for getting the perfect size. Now, we do have a screw down case back, which you'd expect again on a diver's watch. As you can see there, it says a Seiko Special Edition. This is not a limited edition like the Dusk. You just have all the general markings there, the Air Divers 200 meter, little serial, stainless steel, and the model number just to the side here, or the movement and model number. And this watch is a completely different shape to anything else that you'll see. It's a weird thing to say, but to me it looks very Japanese, very Transformer-esque with those triangled looking lugs there and the triangle guard over the crown. Obviously they're functional, but it adds a really nice look to this watch, a really different look. That's why I'd probably prefer this over the Turtle. Turtle's got a much softer look, where this looks a lot more rough and ready. I wouldn't really call this a downside, but it's a bit weird that Seiko are just reusing that monster hour hand. Don't get me wrong, absolutely love it. It lines up perfectly at 12 o'clock with the other hand to make a little rocket shape, which I love. A little feeling of them reusing parts from other watches, a bit weird, I don't know. Probably won't bother many people as everyone loves the monsters. No marking on the crown, which is a bit weird again. I mean, maybe a little bit of a cost cutting exercise there. The Lumibrite on the minute hand glows a completely different colour to the other hands, which I don't know if that's like functionality for the dive aspect of this watch, so you can distinguish, but obviously the other hands are completely different colours, so I don't know why that'd help you. Another thing which is quite common complaint with Seikos is the bracelet. It's not the most comfortable bracelet. It's stainless steel. It doesn't really conform to your wrist perfectly. I mean, it's not uncomfortable to wear, I wouldn't say, but if you don't size it perfectly, it's not great. Another thing to know for certain people, this isn't an issue for me because I quite like my watches to wear big, but it is a chunky watch. Like, you are going to feel it on your wrist, as you'd expect from a lot of dive watches, a lot of proper dive watches anyway, or maybe a downside to some people. For some people like me with smaller wrists, it is a harder wear. One last thing, Hardlex crystal. I know it's a thing for Seikos, but why? I don't know why they can't just go to sapphire. I mean, there's so many cheap Chinese watches using sapphire crystals at the moment, and surely it's not that much of a cost difference. It's just a bit weird for me. So, talk about price. Over in the UK you're looking anywhere up to £429 for one, which is a bit high. I mean, it's just under that 500 bracket that I usually stay, a little bit up there. If you look pretty deep into it, you could probably get one for around 350s. US market, you're looking around $412. Just looking on Amazon at the moment, and you'd do well to get one for $340, which is, in my opinion, an absolute bargain. After the conversion rate, I think that works out around £300. Is it worth it? I think if the turtle's a bit too soft for you, a bit too of a curved look, and you're looking for something different, something that stands out to people, I think it's one that you pull the trigger on right now. So, there you have it, that's my Seiko Samurai PADI edition. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.